I have a technical question.
Yes?
I can't see anybody. I just see the squares with the names. Any tips for me? I'm in a hotel room, so
I would try
maybe it's just there.
I would try logging off Randa and then coming back on and seeing if that resets.
Okay.
Okay, but don't do it yet, Rans, because we
Okay.
need you to sing.
All
Okay.
right.
So
Thank you. So now I
everybody
can see Andy.
mute yourself and sing along with Randa.
Okay, so the lyrics are in the chat. And so today we're just going to kind of take this one just a little bit deeper. So it'll be a little bit slower than what usual because of this incredible time this whole week has been. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on justice. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on justice. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on justice. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I'm walking and talking with my mind stayed on justice. I'm walking and talking with my mind just stayed on justice. I'm walking and talking with my mind stayed on justice. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on justice. I woke up this morning with my mind just stayed on justice. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on justice. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Tuesdays with Tillis, week number 191. We are a community of nonviolent resistance. We gathered out of concern right after the inauguration because we could see that Trump's choices of the cabinet nominees were each a disaster. And we were hoping at that time that we could talk Tillis into voting against them. And what we've really learned is that Tillis is really only out for himself. He doesn't even know who the Supreme Court justice is yet, and he's decided to vote for her. Crazy. It's just gotten crazier and crazier, and it's going to be crazier before things lighten up. So we have found that when we look at these difficult things together, as we learn together, we feel better. We feel strengthened, and so we can keep moving forward. And we found that chanting, singing, speaking from our hearts, and sharing with each other what we know has really helped us to get through these last 3.5 years. And so we're headed forward together. Not one step back. I know you're all saying. So today, just a little heads up about what's going to be happening. I asked Mike to say a few words about the Supreme Court in connection with Mitch McConnell, which will probably cause us some discussion about that. I know that's on our minds. And every single week we come back to how important getting out the vote is. And we're all working on that in various ways. And we might want to talk a little bit about that. Keith Johnson is going to bring us some news from the Climate Crisis Committee. And I'm really excited that we're going to hear from a couple young people from the Sunrise Movement about an action that is happening tonight. And so, Owen, welcome. Owen Lockett is with us. I know you've joined us and you can unmute yourself. Would you like to have a few minutes to get here before you speak to us? Or would you like to speak right away? Up to you.
I can go ahead if that's fine.
Okay. So I'm going to find you so that I can, oh, there you are. Okay. I'm going to spotlight you. Okay. So we can, or at least speaker view you. Welcome, Owen.
Perfect.
Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you guys so much. And I think it's super cool that you guys have been doing this for over 100 weeks. That's crazy. And like, thank you guys so much for everything that you've been doing with Tuesdays with Tillis. It's really inspirational and yeah. And so my name is Owen Lockett. I'm 15 years old. I'm the hub coordinator of Sunrise Raleigh. And in the past 3 days, I have been planning this action centered around the second U.S. Senate debate with Thom Tillis and Cal Cunningham. The Sunrise Movement is not endorsing Cal Cunningham, but we are very adamant about targeting Thom Tillis with our actions. We think that his actions as a senator have been just completely horrible and horrendous for the people of the United States and for the climate and for the communities on the front line of the climate crisis that we care about very dearly. And so tonight we are going to be just a quick run through of our action plan. So you guys all are up to date. We're going to be meeting at the nearby Wegmans grocery store parking lot and sort of going over the plans for the action, what we're going to say, what we're going to do to keep safe, and just our quick timeline. And then that will be at 5 o'clock. And then at 5:30 to 5:45, we're going to walk over to the CBS 17 building where the debate is being held. And we're going to hold an action outside of the building at 6 o'clock to hopefully meet Tillis as he's walking in. That would be huge, and hopefully we'll get a lot of coverage, and hopefully this will be big. And yeah, if any of you guys are able to make it, that would be great. I'm sorry, I should have had this ready, but we do have a Mobilize link that I will drop in the chat in a few minutes if you guys want to continue on.
Yeah, take your time.
But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you guys so much again for doing this, and thank you for letting me talk to you guys.
Thank you so much. How cool is that? That is so cool. Okay, any questions for Owen? I have one, which is, how can we support this action other than showing up? Any other ways? But also, you're inviting us all to show up, and that's really great. And if you could also put the address in the chat, that would be really helpful. At some point, no hurry.
Yeah, absolutely. So pretty much really the only thing we need right now is for you to show up.
Okay.
We have art that's been made for previous actions. You may have seen on our social media if you follow us. if you follow the main National Sunrise Movement account, Sunrise North Carolina held an action outside of Tom Tillis's house yesterday morning, and we woke him up and he got in his truck and ran away, which was great. Um, and yeah, but yeah, which that sort of goes away from the question, but yes, we do have art and stuff from that action, and we have chants and plans prepared for this action. So all we really ask is that you show up and wear black or gray, dark colors, just to help us keep like a unified picture of us. And that's about it. Unless you have Sunrise merch, then wear that, please. That would be great. But yeah, if you don't, black and gray, just show up at 5 o'clock. We'll give any instructions you need.
So we don't need to make signs or bring signs?
No.
Okay. And there's a question about marshals. Will there be marshals?
Yes, we do have 2 marshals ready.
Oh, we're so excited that you came to talk to us, Owen, and I think you'll see some of us there.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, really.
I'll put the rest of the info in the chat, and once again, thank you guys so much for everything you do, and thanks for letting me talk to you.
Oh, it's thrilling. It's thrilling. You're the future. And you're the reason why we're here every week, frankly. Yeah, that's so wonderful. Okay, anything else about that from anyone? Okay, and just continuing on people who are passionate about the climate crisis, we're going to hear from Keith Johnson, who represents our climate crisis team.
Hello, folks. So Karen asked the climate crisis team to speak about the climate crisis fires, climate fires on the West Coast, and the related politics in the upcoming election. So there's many issues that could be talked about. I'm going to focus on 2 of them today. One has to do with the Electoral College, and the other has to do with the 13th Amendment. First, and this is related to the Electoral College, why did it take weeks for the presidential candidates for them to pay attention to the fires on the West Coast? I think with the number 45, we can pretty discount he's not interested, other than putting forth his theory of forest management, which disregards that there was a drought over the past several years on the West Coast, killed many trees, and created an ecological tinderbox that was just waiting for a crisis fire. On the other hand, Joe Biden has pledged to put our nation on the road to net zero emissions by no later than 2050. And that's the good news. But it was his first speech on the subject on September 14th, about a month after the California, Oregon, and Washington fires were declared a state of emergency. So we don't need to look any further than the Electoral College as to why he wasn't in California, Oregon, and Washington. He was in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, the swing states. This is not a trying to downgrade Joe Biden. This is pointing out that he's working in a system where North Carolina, why do you think we've seen so much of Pence and number 45 in North Carolina and in Pennsylvania? Joe Biden is, as I said, going to have emissions, net zero emissions by no later than 2050, and he still supports fracking in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, fracking is jobs. And now is not the time, and I'm sure in his estimation, to start talking about reducing fracking and the use of carbon-based fuels. So the Electoral College is a climate problem. And probably most of you know there is an effort to change the Electoral College. And actually in North Carolina has not signed on to the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, which is 16 states in the District of Columbia, now at 196 electoral votes, 73% of what the 270 needed. So if the United States got enough states to sign on to reach 270 required electoral votes, then the national popular vote would carry the day. In North Carolina, there has been a bill has been submitted over the last number of years, Senate Bill number 104. And I'll put a link in the chat when I finish here and can focus on typing instead of speaking, as to where you can go to write your North Carolina state senators at the nationalpopularvote.com website to see if we can't get North Carolina's, I think, 15 electoral votes added to the 196 that have already committed to doing that. The other issue has to do with Amendment number 13. Amendment number 13, as you recall, abolished slavery, except if you were convicted of a crime.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that one of the major number of firefighters on the West Coast who are fighting fires are incarcerated
Right.
folks. And they're doing it. The states are getting cheap labor. Just some a small number of data. 3 million hours each year are provided by the incarcerated inmates of California to fight fires. They earn between $2.90 and $5.12 a day. If they are active working on a fire, they get paid $1 an hour. And I can remember earning $1 an hour in 1955 working for my dad in his sawmill. And on top of that, when these folks get released, they've been trained as firefighters. They've had experience as firefighters. And then they have difficulty finding work, getting a job as a firefighter because of their criminal record. So I'll also put in the chat the fire and forestry recruitment program. A couple of people who've been incarcerated and worked fires when they were incarcerated and have been released and went through the experience of trying to get a job as a firefighter. I've put together an organization to help others to be able to find jobs as firefighters once they're released, and I'll put that in the chat as well. The Forest Fire Recruitment Program.org. So the Electoral College and the 13th Amendment continue to drag us down and need to be changed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Keith, and thank you to your team. Yeah. Yeah, Andy. Muted. You're muted, Andy.
There we go. I put in the chat, but I saw that Governor Newsom had a press conference the other day where he talked about that he is pushing to have ex-cons who have been firefighters be able to get jobs as firefighters once they get out. And so he's actively working towards that. So thanks, Keith, for pointing that out. But I know that there is some movement at least in California, for that.
Yep, let's hope it starts a huge movement in all of those states and all of our states. Okay, the only other person that I know for sure is speaking today is, I asked Mike to say a few words about Mitch McConnell and the Supreme Court. Yeah, go right ahead, Mike.
Well, like everybody else, I was shocked on Friday night and tears in my eyes when I saw on TV popped up that Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. I know she fought so hard to try to stay alive till at least January 21st, and I'm sure she would have liked to have lived a lot longer than that. So I'm here to talk about somebody that is just the most appalling man in the whole wide world. It's unfortunate, I guess, in hindsight, looking back, and I don't want to criticize Ruth Ginsburg, but there was calls for her when Obama was president to resign so he could appoint somebody, younger, obviously. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Right after her death, McConnell said a few words how great of a woman she was, and then he comes up with the idea that the hypocrisy that the Republican Party doesn't even know how to spell, that we will now bring up a nominee with less than 50 days or so to the election. We don't care what we said in 2016. It's like it never happened. Right after he said it, Joe Lockhart, who used to be Bill Clinton's press secretary, came out and said we should try to raise $10 million on the next day for Amy McGrath. Unfortunately, Amy McGrath is down to Mitch McConnell by double digits and probably has absolutely zero chance of winning an election. Even the fact that she's raised about $60 million to do it, which kudos to her. And I hope maybe this turns it around and she can win an election. So I got an email from Ryan Grimm, who's now with The Intercept, used to be with the Huffington Post. And he basically said, if it makes you feel good to spend $20 on Amy McGrath, I know we all thrown away $20. He had a better idea, and that's to go to a group called Pod Save America, which actually has a link, which I will put in the chat, of how we can support the 7 or 8 swing states other than North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. States like Iowa, Arizona, Nevada, Texas even, that possibly we can elect even more Democrats to the Senate. So when we do have guys like Joe Manchin who possibly might not say, hey, we don't want to pack the courts. We don't want to put in, I think that the Democrats, if they're smart, they put in term limits for all federal judges to 20 years and make it retroactive. So people like Clarence Thomas has to retire. That's my opinion. So I will put this in the chat, and I would like to have a discussion of how we can try to not only pressure Tillis, who's on the committee, and Richard Burr, who will have a vote in the Senate, but how we can put pressure on every Republican out there that hopefully once and for all. Oh, by the way, I don't know if anybody saw it, but Mitt Romney basically is on board with the vote. So it limits it to the 2 ladies, McCarthy and Collins. And if Mark Kelly wins the special election on November 3rd and they haven't taken the vote, then we only need one more as opposed to two more, because he'll be seated before he'll be seated immediately. So that's a discussion I think we need to have, how we can pressure all of these Republican senators, especially the ones that are they're vulnerable this time and possibly in 2022. So with that, I'd like to say thank you, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, for all the things you did for women. I don't remember if people remember, I saw it in her documentary that one of her first cases was not a woman, but was a man who was discriminated against, who was a caregiver. And being that he was not a woman or a widower, he was not entitled to the tax credit that women who are caregivers and widowers were entitled to. And she won that case before the Supreme Court. So men, she did a lot for us as well as just women. And she did something for people all over the world just by being who she was. So thank you. Happy New Year, everybody. A sweet New Year in the Jewish tradition. And I thought it was very fitting that she died on Rosh Hashanah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mike, for bringing all this up. I'm going to open it up now. I know we've all been thinking a lot and reading a lot. What's at the top of your mind? Go ahead, Jewel.
Here we go. I have been finding it compelling to read the arguments that we should move a little off of calling it hypocrisy as if they give a rat's ass about that, and start calling it the insulting, degrading behavior that it is to lie to us to our faces and know that they are lying and know that they were lying when they got in the way of Garland. That is our better, one of our better arguments is to call them out for their actually, I don't actually have the words. I found the argument compelling, but it's like for their meanness, for their lyingness. Obviously, need help with that.
I called Senator Tillis this morning and told him that he was an embarrassment to his constituents.
You know what? One thing that we kind of have to face is, although we have to do this pressure campaign on these Republican senators, I think part of us knows that this is the end of a very long power struggle. And it's the end of the struggle of corporate interests and billionaires to take control of the Supreme Court. And I am not sure whether we can stop that. I think we have to be prepared for, although we want to do a full court press, I've been calling Tillis's and Burr's office every day, for sure. We have to be prepared for the possibility that they're going to put somebody else on the Supreme Court. But all is not lost, because if we have a blue tsunami, it will be really hard for this Supreme Court to continue with Trump's presidency. So the national groups that I've been in touch with, what they're saying is we really have to get out the vote. That doesn't mean there won't be people going to Washington to try to stop the government. It doesn't mean there won't be a national strike. There's all those things are on the table. But the election, all our focus probably needs to stay on the election. And I'm happy to take a discussion about that, whether you agree or disagree. That's kind of just the opinion I'm forming so far. Go ahead, Lucy.
For those of us, excuse me, who saw the George Lakey training last week, I thought what he said was very strategic in terms of focusing on the center in this period. He said we've been so focused on advocacy and fighting against things that really in this period, our position of fighting for democracy and waiting until all votes are counted are appeals that the center can understand. So in terms of what Jewel is saying about not using hypocrisy, I think the issue of it's not democratic to force through a vote when we're 2 months away from an election, that we have to really fight for the Constitution. We have to fight for democracy, are issues that are very strategic this period. And he says it means a change in our orientation about who we're appealing to, whether it's friends and family or how we use social media, or I think even when we're calling our elected representatives. And I know there's going to be 2 follow-up trainings, but that training was recorded and people can go and look at it. I think, Karen, you had it in your tiny letter, and it's really, I think, a guiding strategy for the next months, the immediate months ahead.
Lucy, thank you for that great summary of that training. And as soon as I can get a link to the recording, I want to put up, because it is really a different way of looking at things. It makes sense. I think there's a lot of hope that it'll work if we get enough people on board with it. There are 2 more trainings on the 23rd and the 30th, and another 2 on October 1st and 6th. And then there are trainings to train the trainers. And I think that we could do a lot. I've been a little worried because, I love the martial training, but a lot of us are not going to be able to walk the streets at night for nights on end trying to have a revolution on the streets. But this is a very powerful way, focusing on the center, getting the center to commit that the election is not over until every vote is counted, and getting people to commit to that. We just have to get real organized, and those trainings are a way to do it.
Just a quick follow up on that. One of the links that he included was the pledge. That I insist that all votes have to be counted. If they're not counted, I'll take to the streets. It's a 4-point pledge that we can drop in the chat. So I put it on my Facebook page and put the names of our Orange County Board of Commissioners and our Carver Town Council and Verla Insko and Valerie Fouché, and asked them, would they pledge not to recognize the vote until all votes are counted? And I heard back from 8 of them, all saying yes, absolutely. But it plants the seeds for them to be thinking about the issue that he talked about, which is one of the things that can stop a coup, would be for elected officials to take a position both before the election and then after the election, if he won't give up power, if he's not legally elected, getting all of the national elected officials to take a position. So I think that if folks look at that pledge and both take it themselves, but talk to our elected officials, that might be beginning to lay the seeds in their thinking about how they can take a stand.
Yeah, because I can't stress strongly enough that in the past, when coups have been interrupted, it's because the center decided to also resist the coup, not just the left. Yeah, Darlene. And then Jan.
I don't know if anybody saw this. I read yesterday that like in North Carolina, where you've got a Republican legislature, that they can eventually cut off the election and declare that Trump is the winner in North Carolina. Did anybody else see that? Jewel, yeah. So we need to focus on the legislature somehow. I don't know how we have any impact on the Republican legislators, though.
Well, okay, talk about pressure. I mean, we're from 8 different counties. A lot of different representatives are represented among us. And, those may be the people that we may need to really pressure and get our friends and neighbors to pressure. Jan.
Yeah, thanks. I wanted to follow up a bit on what Lucy was saying and just comment that there's a lot of different get out the vote efforts going on from a lot of different groups, which I laud. But one of the things I like the most about the Poor People's Campaign's more organizing effort is that it's very clear that turning out the vote is not the place to stop, that you need to connect with potential voters, urge them to vote, and sign them up for the movement so that the actions we'll need to take after the election, or if it's a contested election, that we've got their contact information as well and are in touch with them. So I think that it's a mistake to just focus on the election or even just on how the election is reported or those more short-term things. We have to focus on how we're going to build our power for the long haul, because it's not over in November.
Thank you so much for that. And that link is in the tiny letter. The other thing I really love about William Barber's efforts is that it focuses on poor people. And he has really shown that if poor people can be mobilized, we can win elections.
Hey, this is Tara.
Sorry.
And I just wanted to echo some of what is said here. Like, North Carolina is very much a swing state. And because of that, I think my understanding from partners organizations is that North Carolina is one of 12 states that they're looking to really do post-election work, because it is a potential state where there could be, like things that I've said, like the General Assembly can go ahead and, because people don't understand that the General Assembly sends the electors, right? Like we're electing electors who then put in the votes for the president, and so I think one thing that we've talked about in some of our coalition groups is the idea of like having strong narratives about like, this is about protecting democracy. And then who are the voices that are going to be doing that? Having like people who are trusted, right? Like talking about the Board of Elections, maybe having even like sports figures, like who are those people who in the media can be sending out those messages and then helping people understand like that's what we're talking about. Like, because honestly, there will be a narrative like you're just sore losers. Let's stop this. And so we need to be like talking like we are making sure every vote counts. And then also, so the strong narrative and then the mass mobilizations, I think. So we do need to be prepared for doing all of that. But now I think also with the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and this Supreme Court vacancy, like those things are now needed as well, like the strong narrative. And so I do encourage folks to really be talking to people in your networks and also to media. I mean, now is the time to flood the papers with letters to the editor about like that this is just, people are voting now. Like in North Carolina, people are voting. The election we're not like 45 days from an election, like the election is happening. And we don't, the Supreme Court, they are appointed for life. The only way that we have a say is in the people who vote on them, right, and put them forward. And so that's the senators, that's the president. So we deserve to have that say. And I think also I have heard that people talking about that the ACA is going to be at the Supreme Court the week after the election. And of course, John Roberts, I felt, was a coward in doing that. And helping people understand that this could, like literally who's on that court could impact their healthcare, I think is also like helping people understand how the Supreme Court impacts them, I think is also important. Because there are a lot of people who don't even know that the Supreme Court, I learned this during the Kavanaugh fight, they don't know that the Supreme Court people are appointed for life. Like they are just like, oh, well, the next election will take care of it. Like there's a lot of misinformation out there. So helping people understand like, these are the things that they're voting on. This is how it can impact you. And this is the one way that we have to have some kind of influence on who these life appointed positions are or by our votes. So I think really getting that message out there and being really strong with that narrative. And then also helping people in your networks, like when they see mass mobilizations, particularly after the election, to help them understand like what it's about, because it's going to be painted as riots and sore losers and that kind of thing. And like, that's not what we're talking about. So I think I agree with Karen talking about the center, helping them understand that so that we can really make sure that that pressure is there.
Thanks, Tara. Mike and then Andy.
Yeah, one quick thing about follow up on Jan, mobilizing the vote. I read that one of the most effective ways, in addition to everything that everybody else always does, is to text 3 of your friends or relatives say, hey, I just voted. Don't forget, you got to get out and vote. So get the people that are sitting on the fence, maybe they'll be out there, but that's personal and it's quick and it's easy. So keep it in mind.
Thanks, Andy.
I don't know if you guys have been seeing much about the news in Virginia since they started their early voting. They started doing the early in person. They've had huge long lines, and that included they had protesters, Trump supporting protesters, show up and try to basically block voters from getting into the polling sites. So as we get close to that October 15th starting date around here, we need to start thinking about how we want to potentially mobilize to help prevent people from, causing a ruckus at the polling sites, because that is going to be a big deal, I think, in terms of making sure that everyone gets the opportunity to vote. Whether they're voting one way or the other, they should all have the right to vote, and to have people there stopping voters from getting into the doors is blatantly illegal, and we need to keep an eye out for that.
Vicky? Vicky? Okay. What I wanted to say, maybe her microphone's not working. What I wanted to say was you can be a vote protector. Go to Democracy NC. A lot of us have already signed up. Please sign up to be a vote protector for at least part of Election Day, because what Andy says is dead serious about people showing up and intimidating folks trying to vote. Yeah. Hi, Darlene. Yes.
Yeah, I'm very concerned about that as well. That area where they were actually protesting people who were voting, is my home territory, and it's a very, very blue area. So I can only imagine what's going to happen down here in North Carolina in some of these very red areas. It's not going to be good.
So something else to organize people around, sign up to protect the vote and encourage everyone you know to also do that. It's a really much easier than being a poll worker.
Karen.
Yes.
Hi, it's
Gerardo,
Gerardo.
hi.
Hey, dear. I just wanted to say something along the lines of, to piggyback what Tara was saying. Speaking of the Supreme Court, I heard earlier this year that the Supreme Court had decided that whoever the electors are, that they have to vote for whoever the state chooses, almost like as if they can't vote with their conscience anymore. So that's, yes, the Supreme Court justices are appointed for life, but that case and the decision that was made has huge consequences for us, especially now that we have a presidential election. So let's just let's keep that in mind.
So that was about the Electoral College, I think, that decision.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, Scarlett, go ahead.
When we were talking about encouraging people to vote, just one-on-one contact means so much. I was at the Interfaith Food Shuttle and talking with one of the workers, and he asked how he could register. And I said, you can register and vote with early voting. The next time I went out, I took him the paperwork and the instructions, and he passed it along to other workers at the food shuttle. And then I was at BJ's and got into a conversation with the general manager. And we talked about early voting, how to register. I think those things help, just your opening yourself up and talking one-on-one, because it's going to be one vote at a time.
Great. Yeah. Yesterday, I took my absentee ballot to the Board of Elections. I had to wait in a long line, which is very encouraging.
One other thing, Danny and Dominique, and I think Danny is on our Zoom call today. They were with me at the vigil in Raleigh for RBG. And if anybody else was there and I didn't recognize you because of the mask, You were there, Tara? Okay. And I spoke for the Tuesdays with Tillis Group, and we got lots of cheers, and it was good. So
Great. Thank you for telling us. That's really cool. That's really cool. We have time for a few more comments, especially maybe about the election and what you're doing to get out the vote, in case anybody is looking for something to do. Yeah, good, Darlene.
I was on that big send call for Vote Forward last night, and it was supposed to be where you adopted voters and everybody wrote letters together, but there were none left to adopt. That's good news.
Great news. That's really great news.
Karen.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
glad somebody was, I just got off another Zoom call, so we're just kind of getting here now. But you said you dropped yours off to a Board of Elections yesterday, and it was a long line, or whatever day it was. What county do you live in? Do you mind my asking?
Durham County.
Oh, in Durham County. Okay, we're going to take ours to Wake County, probably today or tomorrow. I was just wondering. It may be that way. It may be that way everywhere. I don't know. I hope so. Like you said, it's a good sign. It is. Yeah. So.
Hope so.
Okay.
I have a good feeling about a blue tsunami. Yes, Mark.
Yeah, so I also had an absentee ballot, and I went ahead and did mine in the mail. So I signed up for the tracking mechanism, and so they told me when they had mailed the ballot to me. It came the next day. So they told me it was mailed on a Friday. I got it on a Saturday. I filled it in. I put it in the mailbox Monday. Tuesday, it notified me that the post office had my ballot. It notified me that it was received at the Board of Elections on Wednesday, and that was accepted on Thursday. So just FYI, we've heard things about, horrible things about the post office and delays, but it worked. So just be aware.
Great. That's great.
But don't wait. Go ahead and vote.
Amy, thank you for speaking up, because I wanted to ask if you want to do all those postcards or if you would like some help with them. Amy has been doing a lot of postcards, and she just got a whole bunch more. Amy, do you want some help with them?
They're done. I have nervous energy.
You guys are amazing. You guys are amazing. That was like a lot of postcards. Well, we're all doing what we can do, right? Somehow we have to balance taking care of ourselves. We're in this for the long haul. We know it won't be over on November 3rd. We're just going to keep up the fight. I have a special treat now, unless there's anything else. Anything else? Yeah, go ahead, Jesse.
Just a question. Did I hear the other day that the post office is supposed to be giving priority to ballots at a mail?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yes. Tara. Tara and then Mike.
Really, I'll put it in the chat, but I know Durham for All is a great group, doing a lot of great progressive work in Durham, but they're right now calling voters in Durham. They are committed to calling voters of color in Durham who haven't really been regular voters. And right now they're really, and they're talking about who they want them, getting them out to vote, but also like sharing their values as well. So if people want to make calls, I hear that those are going pretty well.
Yeah, I've been working with Durham for All for the last 6 weeks, and they're super organized, and it's a great list, and their training is awesome. So ditto.
Thanks, Evelyn. Thanks.
Clarice, Michael Eisenberg. I had the pleasure this morning to see Pam Robbins at the Wake County Board of Elections. Got there at 5 to 9, walked right in, walked right out.
She was working there? She was working the polls?
No, Pam was dropping off her ballot.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's great. Okay, that's great. Okay.
This is Libby.
Go ahead.
I wanted to emphasize again what Lucy Lewis was talking about. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I really think prevention before the election is very, very, very important. And I like the pledge. I was on the call with George Lakey, and he talked about the urgency of us mobilizing even before the election. So the template that Lucy used, I really think that other counties and Durham would be very receptive to taking this pledge. And actually, I think we need to start mobilizing. There's just a lot, and there was an article in the paper, the Herald Sun, about the infiltration of Democracy North Carolina. Did any of you read that?
Yes.
With this one guy that, so they are doing everything they can. So we have them on the run, which is a good sign.
And I just want to clarify too that this right-wing organization tried to infiltrate a couple different organizations and were unsuccessful, which speaks to the strength of these organizations, that they smelled a rat, that they called in authorities, and but Cal Cunningham's staff person also told me that there are people infiltrating the gatherings that he's speaking at. We just have to stay awake because, I think that the people who want to hold on to power are pretty ruthless, and we're stronger than them. There's a lot more of us. Just stay awake and keep keep breathing and keep marching. Are you ready for the surprise? Okay. This is really cool. This is my desktop. I had this a minute ago and I'm gonna get it again. Okay. I'm trying to share my screen. Share screen. Here it is. Okay.
We were angry when you raised all those taxes on the poor. We were outraged when you authorized those pipelines. But you'll really hear us roar if you start another war. We're here to tell you that now you pissed off Grandma. Our elections are a sham, and our prisons a disgrace, and our schools and children cry out for attention. Infrastructure's gone to pot, and our kids are getting shot. You've ignored us, and now you've pissed off Grandma. Social Security's in danger, and our Medicare is too. And folks are dying every day for lack of health care. Workers need a living wage, so for justice we will rage. We're on the march now because you pissed off Grandma. Well, you want to build a wall, but there's no wall that's so tall that it can keep out truth and justice and compassion. So we'll keep on singing strong and unite to right these wrongs. We'll vote you out, 'cause you really pissed off Grandma. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
That was delightful, just delightful. So let's take a breath. You know, we're grieving, we're mourning, and that's healthy. And it was wonderful to be able to just laugh out loud for a few minutes. But you know, as we grieve, our spirits are lifted. And last week, Karen talked about F words. Yes, we're on fire, we're focused, and we have the fuel for change. In 1970, Maggie Kuhn was forced to retire from her job at the Presbyterian Church because she was 65 years old. And then she founded the Gray Panthers. Well, in 1970, I never thought I would be a Gray Panther. Well, here I am. And I also didn't realize that I was being paid less than the male nurses. Maggie left us with these words: leave safety behind, put your body on the line, stand before people you fear and speak your mind, even if your voice shakes. When you least expect it, someone may actually listen to what you have to say. Well-aimed slingshots can topple giants. And do your homework. Our Ruth, notorious RBG, always spoke her mind. And she spoke it with that soft, determined, intelligent voice with its Brooklyn accent. She was like little David who slayed Goliath. You know, we spoke about our grief and our gratitude, and my voice shakes. I am so grateful for all of you. And today, let us leave with the words from the Litany of Remembrance by Rabbi Sylvan Kamens and Rabbi Jack Reamer. And I'll ask you to respond. We remember them. So unmute yourselves. In the rising of the sun and its going down, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and the chill of winter, we remember them. The opening of the buds and the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So as long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. Forward together.
Not
one step back. Forward together.
Not
one step back. Forward together.
Not one step back.
Thank you so much, everyone. I hope to see some of you tonight. I'm going to go tonight. If you don't get Jules' reminder on Tuesday mornings and the chat afterwards, put your email in the chat. If you don't get the tiny letter, put your email in the chat. Thank you all so much for being here, and feel free to hang out for a while.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jewel.
Hi.
Thank you, Jewel.
My new friend at